Now we've already done problems A, B, and C. Let's pick up with problem D. Let's take a look at problem D. In problem D, we have the square root of 3 plus 3 times the square root of 5 plus 2. And again, we'll FOIL just like before. We'll start out by multiplying the square root of 3 times the square root of 5. Now, because both the 3 and the 5 are inside the square root, we can multiply them together and they'll still just be under one big square root. And we'll do the 3 times the 5, which will be 15. Then we can multiply the square root of 3 times 2. Well, the 2 is on the outside, the 3 is on the inside. It'll stay that way. So 2 square roots of 3. Continuing with the FOILing process, we have 3 times the square root of 5, which will give you 3 square roots of 5. And lastly, the 3 times 2 will get you a positive 6. Now, what we will notice is that none of these are like terms. We've got a square root of 15, which cannot be broken down. We've got 2 square roots of 3, which is again already simplified. 3 square roots of 5, which is already simplified. But again, notice the square root of 3 and the square root of 5 are not like terms, so we cannot add them. And then we've just got the ordinary number 6. Again, none of these are like terms, so we are done, and we just need to leave them all separate and as is. Let's take a look at problem E. In problem E, we have a squared on the outside of our binomial, which means we have 2 twinning copies that are identical. So I'll have a square root of 11 minus 1 times its twin, another square root of 11 minus 1, which shows me that, again, I have to FOIL. So I'll start out with square root of 11 times the square root of 11, which is, they're identical, so the square roots will drop, just leaving you with the 11. And then I can do the square root of 11 times the negative 1, which is negative 1 square roots of 11. Moving along, I can multiply out my negative 1 times the square root of 11, which is negative 1 square roots of 11. And lastly, the negative 1 times another negative 1 will give me a positive 1. Now I have to be careful that I combine my like terms here. On this one, I have an 11 and a positive 1, which if I combine those two like terms, I will get a positive 12. And I also have 2 more like terms. I have a negative 1 square roots of 11 and another negative 1 square roots of 11, which when added up will give me a negative 2 square roots of 11. Now notice, it would be awfully tempting to want to subtract the 12 and the 2 here, but you cannot, because the 2 has a square root of 11 attached to it, and the 12 does not. That means they are not like terms, and you cannot add or subtract any terms that are not like terms. So you have to leave it as is, 12 minus 2 square roots of 11. Let's try another one. Let's look at F. Okay, in F, we've got, again, another set of twins because of the squared. We've got a square root